Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. We have two Canadian blended whiskeys at 4% alcohol, and they're both bottled in Kentucky. Now, this is Harwood. Canadian whiskey or blend. It is aged 3 years, and it is from Heaven Hill, bottled in Bardstown, Kentucky. It's got a pretty label with the duck and the in the marshlands and the maple leaf. Introduced in 1969. There was a brand called Harwood's, which was 90.4 proof, but that went out of business. They went out of business around 1952, and but this was brought back under a different name, Harwood. It says Duncan Harwood. That was the old company, but it doesn't exist. It's owned by Heaven Hill. I even put the website below to show that. Come in this big plastic bottle, $14.99 at Dornex of Metairie, Louisiana. Okay. Now I've gotten it wrong twice, so I have however many wins and 2 wrong. I'll check that this morning if I can remember. Here is the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights, introduced in 1971 as the Northern Light, singular. So the older bottles say the Northern Light, but now it's the Northern Lights. And you can see it's got like this special maple leaf. They both have maple leaves, but this one reflects the light as it hits it to give it a green and red reflection to make it look like the Northern Lights. See, it's designed to make the bottle look like it's showing the aurora borealis. Amazing. Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. Let me update my notes because I wrote that wrong. Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. That's not too remarkable of a statement because many Canadian whiskeys have natural flavors added, and they don't even tell you that. It says since 1879. Now, I know this whiskey hasn't been around since 1879. Like I said, 1971. Well, you see, it was started by a company that the company Hiram Walker. You may have heard of Hiram Walker. They had a distillery in Canada. I think it's called Black Velvet Distillery now, but Hiram Walker was from 1879. But they got bought out by Barton Brands, I don't know, sometime in the 1980s. And then Barton Distillery of Bardstown, Kentucky, they got bought out by the Sazerac Company in 2009. So it's all Sazerac. It says on the bottleneck, we love to hear from our customers, Sazerac.com, and even give the phone number to call or the email address. Man, this thing will not focus. It does that sometimes. I got to turn the light on. So that's the competitor. This is the mainstay in the competition. Should be able to tell these apart. Okay, so age, no age statement. They don't always have an age statement. Natural flavors added. That's not remarkable because many Canadian whiskeys have flavoring added. And like I said, they're not required to disclose that. Unless you send a certificate. Unless a wholesaler asks for I think it's the wholesaler has to do it. Ask for a certificate of disclosure about what's in the product, and then they have to send them a certificate saying, "Okay, here's what it is." Okay, now, but I was reading an article in Canada, and they were from Canada, and they were saying that's the law, but they had no record of anybody ever asking for that. Like they have these forms to fill out, but the forms might have been sitting there and dry rotting for 80 years because apparently no one ever bothered to ask, what is the flavoring percentage and so forth. All right. It's kind of like the 1986 Chevrolet Camaro. people will say, oh, they dropped the 4-cylinder in 86. Well, it's not really true. It was available in 86. You could have gone to a Chevrolet. There it is at focus. You could have gone to a Chevrolet dealership or Pontiac and ordered a Firebird or Camaro with a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. But they said they had no record of anybody ever ordering one. So if you look at the brochures for the Firebird and the Camaro from 1986, it shows right there, 4-cylinder engine available, 0.5 liter. The dealers didn't want them, so they didn't order it, and no customers ever asked for it. So they, after that year, the option was dropped, or it wasn't an option, it was the standard engine. But everybody would opt to pay a few extra dollars to get the V6. But then in 1987, the V6 became the standard engine, no longer any 4-cylinder. But that would be a collector's item if you could some kind of way find a 1986 Chevrolet Camaro with a 4-cylinder engine, or an 85 or an 84 or 83 or 82, because those are very rare. I saw one once in my life. One time in my life at River Lane Shopping Center. It was a gray, charcoal gray with charcoal gray interior and like silver striping. You know what I mean? Highlights. It looked nice. You could tell it was old. It wasn't totally perfect or anything like that. But I remember on the back bumper, it said 2.5 liter EFI. I said, oh, look at that. It appeared to be an 82. Could have been a little older. But I was amazed, you know. I said, there's a rare one. It might actually have more value than the 8-cylinder, you know, because those, the 305, that's common, you know. Now, the Crossfire, what was that rating? The size engine, 5.7, 5. The 305 was 5.0. Well, whatever. The Crossfire injection, that could be rare. They only kept it for 2 years because nobody could figure out how to work on it. I don't think the engine was bad, really. It's that the mechanics couldn't figure out how to work on it. And then they came out with the throttle body injection and the EFI, electronic fuel injection, and that solved, you know, most of those problems. But it was sort of like Crossfire injection, where it's too advanced for the mechanics. All right, but anyway, you know, so but it probably might have had problems too. Could have been. It's kind of like that 2.3 liter turbo engine that the Ford Mustangs had in 1979 model year. They only kept it around 2.5 years because it was. I don't think it was like they were trying to put something out on the market before the technology was really clarified. Sort of like. And plus, people weren't maintaining them correctly. You had to use super high quality motor oil, and I think people didn't want to pay for the price, so they were just putting regular motor oil in it. It was burning it up. And then when the mechanics had to fix it, they were like, "What? How do you work on a turbo engine? What is this? You know?" And we're not used to this kind of thing. So they kept trying to bring it back, turbo GT. SVO, turbo special vehicle operation, but then they just dropped it after 86. They're like, nah, we got a strong enough V8, and people that buy a high output V8, they don't care about the gas mileage so much. And that was the end of it. I think there is a turbo now with 2024, but that's we way ahead in technology. Okay, enough of that. Does this have flavoring? It might. Doesn't taste like it does. Just tastes like cereal grains. Does this have flavoring? Yeah, it says on the bottle, and it tastes like vanilla or something. So I think I'll be able to tell them apart quite easily. So here we go. Ding, 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 ding. Appearance. Didn't pour it quite the same, but it's close. It's close enough. They're both gold, so that won't matter. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It smells like sweet grains, but maybe, oh, just maybe, there's that tweak of flavoring. Sazerac is a company that loves to use flavoring. And so does Heaven Hill in a lot of their American blended whiskeys, but I don't know about the Canadian. Nah, sweet grains, corn, rye, barley, maybe wheat, maybe wheat. Okay, so aroma, appearance identical, price, yeah, about the same. But I got this on closeout at Winn-Dixie. They wanted to get rid of the Northern Lights. Oh no, you know what they wanted to do? They wanted to go to the just a big handle bottle. And I love this bottle because it's got the Sazerac specialty bottle, diamonds all around the neck. It's diamonds. Diamonds are forever. Okay, so it's fancy, even though the product is not fancy. And look, they had it for $4.75. Full size bottle. I got it for $4.75. I should have bought all of them. They had like 4 bottles on discount. I could have gotten 4 bottles of Canadian whiskey for less than $20. But I mean, I don't need it. It's like that would be like greed, gluttony. It's like sinful in a way because I was like, I don't need it. What am I gonna do with it? Sit on it forever? Let other people buy it. Let other people have it. Same thing with James Fox. Could have bought that for $4.17 a bottle. Of course, you had to buy a case. But I told my friend David, I said, well, what are we going to do with it? He was like, you ought to buy it. We could split it. $25 a person, 6 bottles each. Yeah, I said, but there's no point to it. All right. And there wasn't, so we didn't buy it. Okay. Got the answer, I do believe. But let's check just to be sure. Okie doke. That's the Northern Lights because it got that flavoring thing. It's not a bad flavor. It's like vanilla. I don't know what it is. I was reading, apparently you can add cream sherry to Canadian whiskey if it doesn't go above a certain amount. In other words, it has to be wine that's aged, like they said, in small wood, a small barrel. Well, that's not hard to find. They could use other liquor to flavor it, wine. But now if you read the current regulations, all it says is natural flavors. That's all it says. Not to exceed whatever that percentage is. It's like 9.09%, I think, like just under 10% of the volume. So, and like I said, they're allowed to use it. They're not required to use it. And the Harwood tastes like they're not adding any flavoring, okay? Just like the Royal Canadian from Sazerac. That does not taste like it has any flavoring, and the bottle does not indicate that. And Sazerac is good about that. Doesn't say anything about flavoring. It just tastes like cereal grains. Like grain, from a field, from the Great Plains, the interior plains. Now, I couldn't tell those two apart. They're so similar. Royal Canadian, Harwood. Got it wrong, bro. They're almost the same. They got the same price, same very rare availability around here. And it's just like one or the other. These are not really, they're similar. Now, I'm not going to pretend like these are very different. They're not particularly different. I mean, they're not generally different. They're particularly different in a very fine sense. You can sort of taste like whiskey saturated wood over here. Whiskey saturated wood. Well, it did set in the barrel for 3 years. Okay. This one was in the barrel for at least 3 years. Got no age statement, which in Canada could be the same rule as the United States. If it's got no age statement, it has to be at least 4 years. Now, I don't know if that applies to Canadian whiskey. Their regulations are hard to read. Like they're not very, they're like scattered all around different departments. They're not like a centralized, like Tax and Trade Bureau over here, where it's a booklet, a manual. You read it. There, it's like, oh, go to this subsection and go over here. And then they send me over here and it's telling me about, oh, Canada's constitution in 1982. And it's like, but that's got nothing to do with whiskey. Okay. Yeah. I say vanilla. I don't know that. I don't know what it is. Could be sugar. That's a flavor, right? You say, oh, wait, I think the US government says it's not a flavor, it's a sweetener. That's like very cutting it close, calling a sweetener, not a flavoring. Sugar is a flavor, is it not? But they say no, it's a sweetener. Flavoring is like pineapple flavor, vanilla extract, chocolate. All right, hazelnut. Got it right. And honestly, I think I'm going to get them all right, except for maybe Canadian Crest, which is another one of those unflavored ones, kind of trying to mimic Crown Royal, but not really making it. I found that bottle, it was like $17 over there at Hocus Pocus Liquors in Prairieville, Louisiana. Yeah, I think it was $15.99. $15.99. They sell a similar one. They sell a similar one at Rouse's. It's not Canadian. It's not the same brand name, but it's basically the same, and the bottle is the same looking thing. And I know what Sazerac is doing. They're making this whole lineup of like fancy bottle with the cork and all, and they're pushing it to the distributors like, oh, tell them this could be a good substitute for Crown Royal, and they'll stick it on the shelves and they'll try to sell it for like $19, whereas Crown Royal is 24. And a few people will bite on it. You know what I'm saying? A few. You don't see too many people buying those products from Rouse's, but they trickle out. So that's the story on that. And I'm not going to buy every one of those because I got a feeling it's the same product with different labels on it. It's just a feeling I have. I mean, I don't know that. I would have to try them all, and I'm not paying all that to try them all. So consequently, I'm not trying them all. I bought one, like the one like I said, the one I bought at Hocus Pocus. That's coming up later because that's not really been on the market very long. I'm trying to go in chronological order. 1971, the Northern Lights. 1972, Canadian Limited. 1975, what you call that one? James Fox. 1984, Canadian Hunter. And up the ladder. And you notice one thing about each of the products I named. Does anybody catch on to any of those products that I named? They're all owned by Sazerac, but none of them were started by Sazerac. Hiram Walker, Fleischmann's, Seagram's Distilling, and so forth. So it's like I got all these Sazerac whiskeys from Canada, but none of them were started by Sazerac. They just acquired them in these discount. You say, well, you go around buying whiskey for cheap when you find a discount. That's right, I do. And Sazerac does it too. They just buy the whole company, though. I buy one bottle, they buy the whole company. They target, like, oh, look, hey, Brown-Forman, you got a bunch of brands. You think you need all those brands? And Brown-Forman's like, nah, we could shed some of them, and that'll bring us in $500 million. Let's make a deal. And there they go. Now, is this successful for Sazerac? Seems to be. They got a whole monstrously large portfolio. Eagle Rare, that's another that's a bourbon. They didn't create Eagle Rare. That was started by Seagram's in 1975, a 10-year age. So if you'd have bought a 1975 bottle, that means it was put in a barrel in 1965. Bottle in 75. That'd be something to have, but that'd be some money. But then Sazerac bought it and developed it more. They made Double Eagle, which has got the cut crystal inside the bottle. It's like $2,000 for the bottle. You never see that. Nobody carries that. I saw it at the Sazerac house in New Orleans because we were on a tour there, and the lady says, would you like to try Eagle Rare? And my friend David said, yeah, but I want to try the Double Eagle. And she said, "Oh well, that's not available. We just showing it." um, she said, "But you could buy it. You can buy the bottle." Hmm. And Sazerac bought Canadian. Like I said, they bought their Royal Canadian from Barton, but then they added a 12-year age. See, they got a 12-year age. They did create Buffalo Trace, though. They did create that in their own mind. They came up with Buffalo Trace in 1999 as a new product, and now it's so hot on the market you can't find a bottle. And then they did create Sazerac Rye in 2009, I think their website says, or 2009. They came up with Sazerac Rye. It replaced two older rye brands that they may or may not produce anymore. Old Superior Rye and the other one, something. They did not create Blanton's. They owned the Blanton's, but they bought the company Blanton's. They bought it. They didn't create it. They didn't create it. They bought it. Southern Comfort, they did create, sort of, if you trace the company's heritage back to the 1870s, but something happened along the lines and they sold it. They got rid of Southern Comfort, let somebody else make it. But then they wanted it back. So in 2016, well, I think they started making the deal in 15, but I think 16 it got finalized. They got Southern Comfort, brought it back home, like they say on the internet, back home to New Orleans. So go so on and so on. And then they cut out the flavored Southern Comforts, like the fiery pepper, and there was one that was like Copacabana. I saw a bottle of it. It was like Copacabana, like coconut flavor, something like that. And I was like, what in the world? And one was a lime, but I know there was a lime. They cut it out, and then they just brought in Southern Comfort 70 proof, the standard white label that everybody gets. And there's the Southern Comfort black label, which is 80 proof, that not too many stores get, but some do get them. And then there's the red label, the 100 proof, which very few stores get. But there is a Southern Comfort 100 proof, if you can ever find it. But so they did, you see what I mean? They bought it, but then they added, kind of put it under their own viewpoint. Like Early Times. They bought Early Times at the same time, 2016, and they changed it. They changed it. Now it says whiskey with natural flavors. Oh, yay. I can't criticize it because I never tried. I only tried the Early Times when it was under Brown-Forman's ownership. So I don't know if the new one's any good. Seems to be selling though. Seems like people like it. All right, y'all take care, and I got it right, and I think I'm gonna get them all right from Sazerac. But we'll see. Time will tell, won't it? All right, bye-bye.